What's up, gamers and geeks? Matt with That's Fair Podcasting and Gaming Geeks Live. And in this video, I'm going to go over some of the retro 80s Hollywood tough guys. In no specific order do I rank them. However, the last one that I make mention will be my number one pick, is probably the ultimate badass in Hollywood as far as the 80s are concerned, with all the action stars from your Mel Gibsons, Bruce Willis's, Arnold Schwarzeneggers, and Sylvester Stallone's. Who is the toughest in my opinion? And maybe in the comments section, give me your toughest as well. But anyway, I'm going to give you the rundown and give you my ultimate toughest one, so stay tuned. Growing up in the 80s as a Gen X guy, there were a lot of Hollywood tough guys in the 80s, man, and a lot just immediately stick out. And a lot of them are real life badasses, and some of them probably are just big screen badasses. But anyway, again, I am Matt, and if you are new here, please feel free to subscribe to That's Fair Podcasting or Gaming Geeks Live. Maybe like the video to help us out in that little algorithm to get more views. And if you don't do any of those and you just watch the video, as I always say, that's all that matters to me. I sincerely appreciate it. It means the world to me, and thanks for joining. But anyway, who are some of the 80s tough guys that immediately come to mind when you think about it? You think about the ones like a lower level ones, I guess, should I say, like Dolph Lundgren, maybe Carl Weathers. Or do some of the big names come to mind, like Sylvester Stallone, Arnold Schwarzenegger, and Chuck Norris? But anyway, I'm going to go over just a few of these. And then ultimately, the last one I'm going to gloss a little bit as, to me, the biggest badass of them all. And if you watched my previous Ninja video, hint, hint, probably won't be a big surprise to those who watched my Ninja video on the Ninja Mania of the 80s. However, before I get into it, I'll kind of list some of the other ones. And I'm going to start off with Clint Eastwood. Still a badass. Man, Clint Eastwood will always be a legend. You know, you had the old school Westerns and stuff, but what about the 80s that stands out? I mean, in 78, you had Every Which Way But Loose, but you had a sequel where he was Philo Beto, the badass, in Any Which Way You Can, which was 1980. Then you had other things come out like Tightrope, Dirty Harry's Sudden Impact. He had The Deadpool, if you remember that. Even at Heartbreak Ridge, man, which was a badass film about the Marines. And I just remember being a Clint Eastwood fan, and I thought the 80s really, even though he was getting up there, he was still a badass. So to me, he's on the plus side of badassery. Always will be. It's Clint Eastwood, man. How could it not be? The second one on my list I want to bring up is, he didn't do a lot of 80s stuff. He didn't really come along till a little later, but he did a little bit. Bruce Willis. I don't know his level of real badassery. We all know, and I believe it was 1988's Die Hard. But he got to start in Moonlighting, or maybe even before that with Sybil Shepherd, a show, television series. But other than that, there's not a lot. The Last Boy Scout came along in the 90s, so I'm not big on Bruce Willis. I understand the things that he's currently going through, and I wish him the best. But I've never been big on Bruce Willis. I thought Die Hard was a good movie, but can't really count him as far. I think he was more of the 90s, although he did get a start in the 80s. There's a couple of them that I will mention. He's not on the plus side. He's more on the minus side of real life badasses that I know of. It's just my opinion. But anyway, that's the other one. The next one on my list is Mel Gibson. Come on, who doesn't love the Lethal Weapons, man? I think in 87 and 88 or 89, Lethal Weapon 1 and Lethal Weapon 2. It starts in the 80s for me, but let's not forget the Mad Maxes. Beyond Thunderdome especially. You know, Mad Max Road Warrior, the second one. And then the original Mad Max, which I think was still in the 70s. Don't quote me on that. But Mel Gibson was a badass in the film industry. Still a big Mel Gibson fan when he went on in the 90s and did a lot of his stuff. But, you know, as Martin Riggs, I mean, who doesn't love his character, Martin Riggs? He'll forever immortalize Crazy Cop as Martin Riggs. And the Lethal Weapons, I still to this day, they've aged well enough that I absolutely love Lethal Weapons 1 through 4. Waiting on a new one. You know, I know it's kind of ridiculous how old they are, but I don't care. I'm a fanboy. What can I say? But Mel Gibson, as far as where I rate him, I can't really rate him on the real badass side. He's still on the minus side. I don't know how real much of a life badass he is. Don't know enough about him to really call him a badass. So far, Clint Eastwood is the only plus-size badass. But this next one I'm going to mention is also on the plus side, and that is my man Carl Weathers. Look, I mean, he was Apollo Creed, in the 70s versions of Rockies, and then he was Apollo Creed in, as far as the 80s, he was in 3 and 4. Rocky 3 and Rocky 4. And we all know that he loses to Ivan Drago, his life. But Carl Weathers also did things like Action Jackson, if you remember, and then in 1987's Predator. So, Carl Weathers has his own level of badassery. And to me, the guy was a real-life football player, too. I believe he played for the Rams, Los Angeles Rams at the time. Don't quote me on that one. But I know he played in the NFL. Carl Weathers is on the plus side of badassery, in my personal opinion. Always will be. And a co-star of his next on the list is the one and only Sylvester Stallone. To me, Stallone is on the plus side of badassery. Only because I think the guy put himself through such a rigorous physical just workout, through Rockies, obviously with the Rocky 3 and Rocky 4 in the 80s. He had Cobra. Who didn't love that? He had First Blood. He had Rambo First Blood Part 2. And I believe in the 80s still was Rambo 3. So this guy was killing it in the action movies genre of the 1980s. And to me, he's always on the plus side. I know I'm leaving stuff out. You had Over the Top. You had Lockup, which I think may have been 89. But I think that might have pushed the 90s. I'm not sure. But come on. Sylvester Stallone, to me, is one of the badasses of Hollywood. And right after him is Dolph Lundgren. Now, this one's going to be short. He is on the plus side of real-life badassery, real-life martial artist. But I don't know enough about him. I know that he was Ivan Drago in Rocky 4, and I know he was He-Man in Masters of the Universe. But I didn't really see much of him until the 90s came along with Showdown in Little Tokyo when he starred alongside the late Brandon Lee. Don't know much about Dolph Lundgren. I also know he co-starred with Jean-Claude Van Damme in Universal Soldier, but again, don't know much about him. I do know much about his background, though, and I can tell you enough that he's a real-life badass martial artist, plus side with badass. My next on the list is Arnold Schwarzenegger. Another huge action star of the 80s, man. You guys remember Commando with him and Alyssa Milano? It's a badass movie. Obviously, you had The Terminator. You had Conan the fucking Barbarian, man. You had Red Sonja. And, I mean, he played, even in Twins, he was a badass. But Arnold Schwarzenegger played badasses. I don't know. I think The Running Man is also in the 80s, but don't quote me on it. And I don't put him on a real plus side of badassery. He's more on the minus side with Willis and Gibson. As far as I know, he was a bodybuilder. Yeah, and he was one of the greatest of all time, obviously. But I don't put Arnold Schwarzenegger in the level of badassery on the plus side. But doesn't mean I didn't love his movies, man. You didn't love his movies, man. I don't know what to tell you. Predator. I mean, Jesus. Get to the chopper. Do it now. But, sorry, bad impression. Anyway, my next on the list is Jean-Claude Van Damme, who started in the late 80s with Bloodsport and Cyborg. And then, of course, when 1990 was his big time, and then the early 90s, he kept moving. But you had Bloodsport and you had Cyborg, and I don't know, I think Kickboxer could be 1989. I would have to look that up. We'll go throw Kickboxer in the mix. I think it was close enough, but it might be 1990. Either way, man, Jean-Claude Van Damme is on the plus side of badassery. He was a real-life champion, I believe, in Belgium? Was it Belgium or was it Brussels? I don't know. I just know that, if you go through to YouTube, you can actually watch some of his actual karate tournaments, and dude was fucking phenomenal. So Jean-Claude Van Damme, trust me, he is on the plus side of badasseries as far as Hollywood actors, in my opinion, of course. Next on the list, we have the one and only Chuck Norris. I mean, Chuck Norris once got bit by a king cobra, and after 7 agonizing days, the snake finally died. Anyway, he did a lot of movies in the 80s. I mean, he did a shit ton of, probably the most of anybody on the list. You can go with the Octagon, Eye for an Eye. I mean, a Force of One, which might actually be in the 70s. Sorry. Silent Rage, though. Lone Wolf McQuade. Forced Vengeance. I mean, we can go on and on with Chuck Norris. Invasion USA. Anyway, even Firewalker with Louis Gossett Jr. Chuck Norris is on the actual level, plus side of badassery. World champion martial artist, man. Trained with, to me, the greatest of all time, Bruce Lee. So, Chuck Norris, to me, and I've left out a lot of movies. Code of Silence, to name another one. Missing in Actions. The guy, though, is a real-life, true world champion martial artist, and to this day, in his 80s, still in great physical shape. Chuck Norris, plus side of badassery, non-arguable. Next on my list, sorry, I'm going to instantly tell you I'm throwing his ass to the minus side. Sorry, got to. Steven Seagal. Now, he started with his first film, Above the Law, in 1988. Now, a badass Aikido master, don't get me wrong, legitimate with Aikido, but I think we all know that in real fights, Aikido is more or less useless. I think it's good at disarming people with swords, good at using your body's momentum against you, a cousin art to jiu-jitsu. Took Aikido for a little bit, wasn't really satisfied with it myself. Not a real, I mean, I'm not saying it's not a real martial art. It is, trust me. But like I said, it's made for disarming people with swords and knives and using body momentum against you. But in 1988, Above the Law came out. And I think he had another one in the 80s, but don't quote me on it. But maybe not. I don't know. I think his next one was Hard to Kill. That was 1990. So he had one in the 80s. Great movie. I thought Above the Law was a great film. But I still got to put Steven Seagal on the minus side of badassery. Now, my number one, my guy, who I count as the biggest badass, at least of the 80s, could be unpopular opinion by you guys. I don't care. Sho Kosugi, the Hollywood ninja. The guy that did Enter the Ninja in 1981, Revenge of the Ninja in 83, and Ninja 3 The Domination in 84 with Cannon, Golan Globus's Cannon film. And then he went on to do his own shit in the 80s too. You had Rage of Honor, you had 9 Deaths of the Ninja, and you had Pray for Death. Even in Blind Fury, he squared off with Rutger Hauer, I believe, in 1989. But he had a showdown with Jean-Claude Van Damme in 1987 or 88, Black Eagle. Sho Kosugi, though, is, to me, the ultimate Hollywood badass. He's number one on my list, definitely in the plus category. But, I mean, the guy had studied so much in the way of martial arts, including ninjutsu. So many different martial arts listed in my ninja video that I did about a month back. But anyway, guys, those are my lists, just kind of reminiscent as far as the Hollywood tough guys. More so, I have more on the plus side of real badass than I do on the negative, on the minus side. But Sho Kosugi is my number one of the 80s. He, to me, is the most legit. Just my opinion, though. I mean, he got his fame by accident. I mean, he's supposed to just choreograph, and people are like, no, we need that guy on the big screen, which happened in Enter the Ninja. But anyway, guys, thank you so much for listening to pretty much a pointless yet retro rant. And if you don't mind subscribing to That's Fair Podcasting or Gaming Geeks Live, I would sincerely appreciate it. Maybe like the video again to help us with the clicks. And if you don't do any of that, thank you so much for watching this. Please tell me your number one of the 80s Hollywood tough guys that you would pick. You can give me a rank if you want, or you can give me your number one who you think is the badass of them all. But anyway, again, thank you so much. And to you gamers and geeks out there, all love to you. And I am outro.